Welcome, friends and family out there. I hope you are well today, and this Friday afternoon is bringing you some easy smiles. It's not always an easy time, especially in these times we're in right now. So hopefully, we can bring some smiles to ourselves today and at least a sense of peace. So, I'd love to welcome you here today. And once you arrive, you can just say hello in the chat and move into this connectivity space together. So, my intention with this connectivity space is that we can be together energetically, even though we're not actually together physically. So, by stepping forward through your words, we can better be able to be together in that way, in that sense. So that's my intention there, but it's not, if you're not comfortable, then obviously it's okay. I would rather you be here than not. So, yes. Also, before we go any further, I wanted to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and hit the bell to receive the notifications, as we will be offering lots more videos just like this, as well as shorter yoga practices, meditation, reflections, philosophy, and that sort of thing. All right. So I'm excited for our topic today because I've had a few requests for it from students and people in the space. So even though you may not be here with us live, I know you will enjoy this later. So, and let's also acknowledge that when you do watch this later, we are still connected. So there is the energetic component that we have to acknowledge that is very, very powerful. So if you feel inclined, you can also send a message in the comments, and that will seal the connection. So first, I would like to ask, who has experienced, either in the past or maybe you're currently living this experience of anger and hopes to find freedom through the idea of forgiveness? Raise your hand if that's you. I think that as human beings, it's something that we all experience on a very regular basis. I shouldn't say very regular basis, but it does happen often throughout our life because we don't always get what we want. We don't always get and accept what is coming towards us. So when those things happen, we often go into reactivity mode. So let me know if that's you. So we're going to start sitting up nice and tall with 6 belly breaths. Close your eyes. Settle into your seat. Settle into your connection. And let us be together. Working with soft belly breath as you inhale, expansion through the navel. As you exhale, through the mouth or nose, whatever is comfortable, emptying the lungs. Inhale, filling up. Expansion into the navel. Exhale, soften. Inhale, expansion. Exhale, soften. Allowing yourself to settle into our connectivity space. settling in together, you and I, in this space right now. And with each breath, visualizing yourself stepping forward into the space. And as I mentioned earlier, writing into the chat or into the comments, say hello to step forward. Let's take 2 more cycles of breath. Soft belly breathing, letting go, letting go, letting go. One more time, inhaling, full expansion. On the exhale, letting go. Settling in. See if you can get a sense for our connectivity together right now. What does that feel like for you? And when you're ready, opening your eyes, or maybe you want to stay with your eyes closed or cast downward. A quote from Gautama, the Buddha: knowing that the other person is angry, one who remains mindful and calm acts for one's own best interest and for the other's interest too. Very powerful, very wise. When we're able to hold on to our sense of equanimity, we can then hold the space for the other or others who are involved. This allows the situation to settle rather than expand or explode. It can become explosive when both parties become angry and then escalate. I'll say it one more time. Knowing that the other person is angry, one who remains mindful and calm acts for one's own best interest and for the other's interest too. So that is from the Samyutta Nikaya, a sermon of the Buddha. Neem Karoli Baba also said something very powerful that I wanted to share. Sometimes the most anger reflects the strongest love. So when we have those reactivity moments, we are invested to some degree. And so there's an expectation. There is a feeling sense of, why is it this way when it's supposed to be this way? It ought to be this way. So there is a reactivity that bubbles up inside of us. And the thing is, anger does contribute to division. And this is something that we're seeing a lot of in our world right now. Division. When we harbor that division, what arises? What happens when we hold on to division? More times than not, violence. Violence arises, and that violence will manifest itself in some form or another, through words, through actions, through energy. It's a very honest way of looking at our anger, especially when we feel justified in our anger. So I bet you can relate to that. You know, I feel justified. This is not supposed to be this way. And we purse our lips and shake our head. Because life is meant to be as it is. And when it's not working in our favor, then we become upset, we become angry, we become frustrated, and then oftentimes just shut everything down and go and put the blankets over our head, or whatever equivalent to that for you. So maybe it's going and having a drink, or maybe it's going for a walk, or maybe it's just shutting the world out for a few days. So when you become angry, what sensations arise within you? This is a very deep analytical question that we ask ourselves. What sensations arise when we feel anger? What do you feel coming up? Does it feel good? Probably not. So who is the first person to become injured when you hold anger? Who is the first person to become injured when you hold on to anger? It's you, right? Anger is anger, no matter where that anger is coming from. It doesn't really matter why you're dividing yourself from someone, because energetically it is received as division and ill will. So we may even have thoughts of negativity towards that other party. And that generates ill will within ourselves and frustration. So is that positive and progressive? Is that productive? That energetic signal is sent out to the universe, out to our world. And then what happens to that signal once it's sent out to the universe? That universe is picking. It's always listening. It's sitting and listening, right? That universal source energy is listening. So what is it picking up when you send out that signal of anger? This is not to bring up feelings of guilt. This is not to point fingers and say, you did this, you shouldn't do this. This is not about that. This is about acknowledgement of what is, and through that acknowledgement, shifting the energy. So if we're harboring this division through our anger, we're supporting violence at that level. And that violence will manifest sooner or later. So it will arise in some form. When that anger and that violence is being held within our body, within our mind, within our energy field, then it will bubble up and it will come out in some form or another. And this often happens, you may notice this in situations where someone has made you very angry, so your fuse is super short. And then the next person that comes along and presses that button gets the brunt of everything else that you've been harboring. So oftentimes it's the straw that broke the camel's back, where suddenly someone says something to you and you explode on that person. And they're like, whoa, it wasn't really that bad. But what they don't know is what you've been holding on to all this time. So from that place of waking up to this reality within ourselves, we can have a more life-affirming response, a more positive response to the world, rather than a rage against it. A response tends toward the positive, a reaction tends toward the negative, and it's really unsettling for everyone who's involved. The whole thing is just unsettling for everybody. So the key is to work with a sense of equanimity, and we do this through our yoga, through our meditation. So these are things that we can do. There are other things that we can do that are a little bit more intellectual. Games, I like to call them. Intellectual games where we work with our mind and we work with different things that we can do. But truly, if you want to get to the root of it, get into deep states of meditation, see what's going on there at the root level. A response tends toward the positive and a reaction tends toward the negative. So we're looking at, instead of being a reactive type of person or reactive type, instead we're choosing a responsive moment, a responsive type of person. A reaction tends toward the negative, and we have to remember that that is just an uncomfortable situation, right? So coming to our wholeness through our acute sense of equanimity, when we balance our mind, when we balance ourselves through the idea of equanimity, which means a balanced mind, a sense of balance in the mind. So through our acute equanimous awareness is that it's not as though we just stand by. We're not just standing by lazily and seeing that everything is all right. We do see that everything is all right, but from that sense of perfection arises pure love, compassion, and a progressive response, a more productive response to the world around us. So, where do we go from there? What do we do in that state? It's a response that is undivided. So, if we're talking about division, where we're like drawing that line in the sand and saying, you're wrong and I'm right, as a whole, as a world culture, if there's going to be any saving of that situation, it's going to have to come from the human heart, our human heart, being undivided. And to get there, we have to wake up our internal experience. We need to enliven our inner world so that it becomes brighter and we're consciously aware of those unconscious reactivities, the unconscious reactions of what happens when we start generating that anger and ill will and frustration and resentment inside ourselves. In order to allow forgiveness to arise naturally, we must first understand what it is to forgive ourselves. And so this is a huge, and it sounds a little cliche. However, that's really where it begins. If there are things that you are not forgiving yourself for, that is going to bubble into and transition into the way you view your world. Because we only see our world through our own experience, through the veil of our perception. So, have you had the experience of self-forgiveness? Have you gone through that experience of self-forgiveness where you've said or done something that you were like, oh, I don't know if I can forgive myself for that. And then you've gone through the process of self-forgiveness, or is it just buried down in there? And each time those little things happen, they keep getting buried and buried and buried. I'm curious if you feel comfortable sharing. So I see this really as a first step. Is really analyzing that within ourselves. Can I forgive myself? Like, can I truly forgive myself for that whatever it was? Something I said, something I did, something I didn't do. And how? Some ways that we can begin to forgive ourselves is to notice what arises when we think about something that we've done, when we are angry at ourselves for doing or saying something. So really going into those past moments and digging into those, what I often refer to as the yuck and the junk. So digging into that junk and going, well, what's down there? And how can I release that from my subconscious? Through this process of self-inquiry, we can then become more clear on what that energy feels like in our body and what emotions arise for us when we lean into that feeling sense. So leaning into it instead of resisting it, because truly it's not a fun thing to go into these areas. It's not something we really relish. Who does? You don't really want to go and look at that stuff. But when you do, what happens is you're able to look at it and then you're able to let it go. And then through that process of letting go, your spirit begins to lighten and lighten and lighten. And suddenly your mirror, that inner view of yourself becomes polished. So we're able to see ourselves more clearly through a lens of compassion and forgiveness and understanding. Ask your body. So when we're going to go through a little process here in a moment. We're going to ask our body, what does this situation offer me as a lesson? Allowing a sense of gratitude. So when we go in and we look at it as a lesson, what did that situation do? So you can look at an individual moment, or you can look at a situation as a whole. So it's up to you what you decide to go into here. But when you look into that moment or that situation and you're able to see the lesson, and it may not happen now. You may have to go through a few of these motions, a few of these meditations or reflections in order to see that bubble up and arise for you. Patience. I think I've done the video on patience. Patience is another big one, right? So we need to be patient with ourselves in these processes and trust and have faith that in going through these emotions, we are going to grow. We are going to let go. We are going to release. And then through that process, gratitude can arise. And gratitude is the antidote. So when we can experience gratitude, then we are then able to let go and release. So let's take a moment here now. Closing the eyes. Take a deep, full breath. Let's take a few soft belly breaths and just let that all digest. Soft belly, breathing as you inhale into the navel. Now notice what arises for you as you bring the idea of a situation, a moment in time, or a situation, and begin to dissect this with your feeling sense. Notice your breath. Notice what arises. Thinking about something that someone else did that you are having a challenge dealing with. Something that someone else did that you are having a challenge to forgive them for. Noticing what arises for you. Noticing the energy in your body, the sensations. What is happening on the inside? Become aware of where you may be holding this energy in your body, what that feels like, where it's lodging itself, where it's moving to. Notice your breath. Allow yourself to sit with that sensation and energy and become deeply aware on a visceral level, on a physical level. What happens inside you and how this can be counterproductive to your own well being and happiness. This may take many times of self inquiry and going inward before this energy begins to break apart, to dissolve into a sense of gratitude. So please be patient, just aware. It takes courage to open to this idea. And the more we begin to see ourselves in our true light, we begin to polish that mirror, strengthening our connection to our source. Remembering that anger is just energy. Release the stress from your body through breath work, through yoga, meditation, movement. Asking for forgiveness. Have you ever asked for forgiveness? With your energy, with your intention, writing it down on a piece of paper. Taking a deep, refreshing breath. Bringing your attention to this moment fully. And taking a moment to follow the natural flow of your breath. And as you witness your breath rising and falling by itself, notice the mind. Notice how the breath feels as it comes in and as it goes out. See if you can maintain your focus and attention on your breathing. Simple awareness of your breath. Now, repeating each line after me, if it feels right for you. I'm going to share a metta meditation. May all beings be well and safe. May all beings be at ease in their life. Whatever living beings there may be, whether moving or standing still, without exception, whether large, great, or small, whether they be small or substantial, whether seen or unseen, whether living near or far, born or unborn, may all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Let none deceive or despise another anywhere. Let none wish harm to another in anger or in hate. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. Bringing your palms together at heart center, taking a moment here to connect. Taking a deep, refreshing breath. I hold a sense of forgiveness within myself. I hold a sense of gratitude within myself for all that I have learned and will continue to learn. I bow to the divine light that is in me, that is also in you. And through this connection, we are always together. Namaste. I thank you for joining me today in this experience. And I look forward to hearing how that was for you and your thoughts. There's so much more to explore on this topic, so much more to explore. So I would imagine that I will be repeating this in some way in the coming weeks. And maybe we'll go and we'll delve a little deeper into the forgiveness aspect and take it to deeper levels. I would love, love, love to hear your experiences. And please be sure to say hello when you come in. Sending love. And if you haven't yet subscribed, if you're watching and you're new, subscribe below and hit the bell to receive the notifications. And we'll see you soon. Much love.